Afghan women continue to live under one of the most repressive regimes in the modern world, denied education, stripped of employment, and erased from public life. As the Taliban tighten their grip, the international community is once again grappling on how to engage with Afghanistan's de facto rulers. At a recent United Nations Security Council meeting, the UN introduced a new Mosaic Plan, a multilateral framework for structured engagement with the Taliban, without granting them formal recognition. While some countries supported the initiative as a path toward pragmatic dialogue, others warned it risks legitimizing a regime that has institutionalized the oppression of women.
3 years since the Taliban's return to power, Afghanistan has become a prison for its women. Girls are banned from secondary and higher education, women have been pushed out of the workforce, and public life is governed by a morality policing law enforced under the so-called Ministry for the Propagation of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. According to UN Women, no restrictions have been lifted in over 9 months, a damning indicator of the regime's rigid gender apartheid. Yet, international diplomacy continues. In this context, the UN unveiled the Mosaic Plan, a strategy to address key concerns including counter-terrorism, humanitarian relief, and human rights without legitimizing Taliban rule.
We have suffered 4 decades of
Rosa Otunbayeva, head of the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, presented the plan at the Security Council, acknowledging that despite engagement efforts, the conditions for Afghan women remain unacceptable.
The international community remains extremely concerned that engagement has not improved the unacceptable situation of Afghan women and girls, promoted inclusive governance, or prevented a marked deterioration in human rights. The de facto authorities also conveyed their grievances: frozen assets, sanctions, non-recognition, the need for development assistance, and an end to aid dependency. Through the comprehensive approach, the UN seeks to put these issues into a more structured, multilateral framework for dialogue and potential progress. The law cemented the de facto authorities' systematic state-sponsored policies that exclude women and girls from participation in public life, including access to education, employment, freedom of movement, and freedom of expression. Through this law, de facto authorities are continuing to pursue a path that distances Afghanistan from its international obligations and hinders Afghanistan's eventual reintegration into the international system.
The repression goes far beyond education. Women-run businesses are being shut down. Humanitarian operations have been obstructed, and the Afghan media, especially women journalists, has been stifled into silence. The 2024 Afghanistan Gender Index, developed by UN Women with support from the European Union, reports that nearly 80% of young Afghan women are neither in education, employment, nor training. Not a single woman holds a position in the Taliban's de facto cabinet or local governance. A patchwork of more than 80 edicts and decrees issued by the Taliban has systematically dismantled women's rights, banning them from most professions, from parks, gyms and sports clubs, and from education beyond grade 6. UN officials have declared this a gender apartheid, not just repression, but a calculated erasure of women from society. Even UN agencies have not been spared. In May, dozens of female UN staff members received explicit death threats from armed actors in Kabul.
The threat remains present, however.
The perpetrators operated with coordination and impunity, raising serious questions about the Taliban's claims of providing security.
This May, dozens of our female national staff were subjected to explicit death threats from unidentified individuals in relation to their work with UNAMA and other UN agencies, funds, programs, requiring us to implement interim measures to protect their safety. In our subsequent engagements with the de facto authorities, they said they were not responsible, but it was also clear these armed individuals were operating with impunity in a coordinated manner in the capital. This is a strong rebuke to the de facto authorities' claim that they have established security and secured the safety and dignity of Afghan women.
Meanwhile, Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis is deepening. Mine clearance operations are collapsing due to funding shortages. Children continue to die from unexploded ordnance. Food aid, healthcare, and shelter are at risk, all as international donor support fades. More than 600,000 Afghans have returned from Pakistan and Iran this year, fleeing economic hardship and regional instability. With only 19% of the humanitarian response plan funded, communities inside Afghanistan are buckling under the pressure.
Mines and unexploded ordnance have killed hundreds of people this year, most of them children, and if the current funding cuts continue, countless more lives will be at risk. The grim picture of demining work in Afghanistan reflects broader cuts in life-saving humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan. Almost midway through the year, and the Afghanistan humanitarian needs and response plan is just 19% funded. This shortfall, which has been compounded by recent dramatic cuts in donor funding, jeopardizes the humanitarian response at a time when the region is experiencing considerable volatility.
The Taliban's insistence on global recognition without reform has been met with mixed responses. China and Russia backed easing travel restrictions for Taliban officials. The United States held firm that its policy remains under review, focused on counter-terrorism and the safety of American citizens. But while diplomatic games continue, Afghan women continue to pay the price.